The culture of our drama school was often referred to as cult-like. While I trained there, I ignored the whisperings of mental breakdowns and short-lived careers, certain I'd be the exception. Years later, I understood the warnings of our well-meaning alumni, and my reverence for the school dissolved. I'd allowed myself to become defined by it, the people, the place, the work. It was vicious, cutthroat, a class of 30 representing the best in the country. We were required to offer ourselves up to be dissected in the pursuit of becoming artists, to become malleable to the method. Terrified of being culled, we obliged, willingly, donning the lives of others that would never truly leave us. Worth the cost, or so we were led to believe. Term 1, Chapter 1, Melbourne, mid-2000s. The drama school stood defiantly between brick buildings on a cobblestone street south of the city. Clad in square aluminium panels that twitched in the wind, the giant, garish structure resembled a trio of Rubik's cubes, haphazardly stacked. It seemed to pique the interest of passers-by, who craned their necks to look up at it, as if curious to what it might contain. From the footpath, I watched the smokers loitering on the wide cement steps beside the entrance, the glass doors sliding open as students filtered in and out, their reflections contorted in the mirror-like panelling, extreme fun-house versions of themselves, emphatic with their laughter and cries of recognition. They all seemed to know one another, and I realised my error in not attending Buddy Day the week before. Daunted, but unable to stall my arrival any longer, I made my way inside, smiling at no one in particular. The foyer was packed. It was far more subdued than the building's exterior. High ceilings, a polished concrete floor, and a handful of thoughtfully placed linen sofas. To my right, a staircase with deep steps of bleached wood rose through the centre of an atrium. Directly opposite, a partitioned wall served as a counter for reception, which opened into a large room full of desks and sleek computer monitors. On a shelf beside the counter, reverentially placed, black and white portraits of the training staff peered from within gilded frames. Head of acting. Head of voice, head of movement. Beyond that, the foyer was obscured by a sea of floral and double denim. Arms moved wildly, heads flung back, voices at fever pitch. The student body was made up of 3 companies named after the year they would complete their training, the intent being that upon graduation, the actors could assemble themselves into a theatre company of their own. But until then, we were known to one another simply as first, second, or third years. From the periphery, I managed to differentiate the students by the intensity of their enthusiasm. Indifferent to their surroundings, with little interest in conversation, were the third years, preparing to dedicate themselves to the work. Sprawled over the furniture, casually colluding with one another, were the second years. And those attempting to make their presence felt with overzealous introductions were the newcomers, my fellow first years. The audition process was notoriously rigorous. 17-year-old girls like myself were not usually accepted. The school rarely took on anyone younger than 21. The staff wanted their students to have lived a little first. I would soon find out that most of my peers had been auditioning for years. Some wore that like a badge of honour. Others skirted around the truth, not wanting to admit to themselves that they'd spent so much time in an in-between place, waiting to solidify their futures by attending a prestigious drama school.